Okay, folks, we are back. I do apologize for the delay. We had a few technical glitches there. It's okay, don't worry.
My fault.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, so we're going to jump right into it. Sorry that we didn't have too much time to talk before we got on stream. I just figured we wouldn't keep people waiting. Final Fantasy. Must be a fairly large portion of your life, I would imagine, from the fan reaction.
Yeah, and it was very interesting because I'll be honest with you, Alex, I didn't for the longest time think that I really understood the impact of it. It wasn't even until 2 years ago that I really understood it was James Taylor who actually told me about the conventions.
Right.
And people were looking forward to meeting me there.
Yeah.
And so when I was like, no, James, come on. I mean, yeah, you're James Taylor, but I didn't understand. And so I went to my first convention in Hawaii, actually.
Oh, wow.
And it was meeting the fans, meeting people, getting to see and talk about the game with them and hear about their experiences in the game and their lives when they were playing the game. I get verklempt just thinking about it. Yeah. It was amazing. It was amazing.
I tell you, even though, because you had a few technical glitches with your cam there, it was weird for me because we haven't spoke. We've spoken.
I know.
We've spoken chat. But then for you to connect, there to be no visual reference and just to hear your voice, I was like, oh my God. Is that no? And I'm trying to understand why Summoner Yuna is talking to me about why her camera is not working, and it's a very surreal experience. The 12-year-old in me is very confused.
Oh my gosh!
There we go.
Yeah.
But I mean, that game was quite some time ago now, and I keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
Was it 2000 or was it a little bit later than that?
Not even quite. It was actually a little bit before.
Wow.
Because
you would have recorded way.
We were recording it.
Yeah.
Sorry, we were recording it in 99. Yeah, 99. Because I had some major life milestones that hadn't happened yet.
Right.
So yeah.
So look, let's before we talk about the game and the fan reaction, let's turn the clock back as far as we can there, and tell me, how did the opportunity arise? Was it through an agent? Did you see something you thought, well, let's go for it?
I had read for another animated series that was going to they had talked about it being on HBO, and Jennifer Jason Leigh was the lead of it. And they were playing with a few different titles at the time, and she was going to be this female gunslinger, very Wild West kind of thing. And I was sort of like her confidant friend in it, but it never wound up happening. But the director for that was a fella named Jack Fletcher, who anybody who is takes the deep dive, and this guy has been around forever. He's an incredible director. He's so good at what he does. Really, really talented guy. And we just hit it off. I don't know, just something about us, man. And so he had me in, obviously, for Final Fantasy, and we did 10-2 together. We did Kingdom Hearts together. We did another one called Valkyria together, a game called Valkyria. We did the Animatrix, which is one of my personal favorites. We did some other ones that are escaping. Those the one we just did with Walking Dead.
Right.
We did that together. So yeah, we did a lot of stuff together. And he's just and that happens a lot in the VO world. You find directors that you would love to work with. You find actors that you love to work with and writers that you love to work with. And it tends to be that you come back to one another time and time again. It's a really nice relationship.
Right. So you get this opportunity. Were you very familiar with the Final Fantasy series before?
No.
So you come in. So did you when you knew the part that you had, did you do a little bit of research on what Final Fantasy was?
I will tell you, honestly, Alex, I didn't, because I approached this like I would have done any acting job.
Right.
And sort of the world of it was less important to me than what my take on her was. And I don't say that to diminish or devalue the rest of the world at all. But I wanted to come into it instead with the perspective of an actor approaching a character. So that was where I went first. I mean, sure, I saw the rest of it in terms of project and viability and things like that once I had decided on that. But I really wanted to approach this instead as an actor approaching any job that I would have. And I mean that as a compliment, not as an actor, any job. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, like, this is an acting job to me. And I feel like always the very best animated voiceover, however you want to think about it, work that I see and characters that I watch are the ones that I feel like have been approached in that way by actors.
Right.
You know, they really try to understand the character first and understand who it is that they're going to be portraying in that. So that was my approach.
I mean, to be fair, even if you had have looked back, one, this was the first main series title to have voice acting. And two, every game is so very different.
Especially in Final Fantasy world.
Yes, exactly. Like the one that came before you was very medieval. And then this one is quite the opposite. It is actually rather surreal. I don't usually admit this, but I will admit it's very surreal talking to you because it's a game that I played as a kid. I, played it not too long ago. It's weird. It's almost a little bit of starstruck. I'll admit it. I think for a lot of people, because it was the first title that had voice acting, people have a major attachment to it.
Yeah. And the world was so complete. The music, the characters, the writing, like all of it was so complete and so entire that I feel like when you played the game, you felt like a piece of that. Yeah. And I can't think of anything that would be better. Oh, my plane is here. I have to go. Sorry. Rope ladder comes down.
Oh, good. You must be fairly close to LAX.
No, Burbank.
Oh, Burbank. Now, every VA that I speak to says, if I have to fly, I want to fly through Burbank. I don't want to fly through LAX.
It's the best.
Yeah.
No, it's the best airport.
I've never been to Burbank, but I hear great things about it.
Well, come over for dinner anytime, Alex.
Everyone keeps telling me. I'm always speaking to people that are like, come to LA, come to LA. But I need to make it happen.
Fun. It's a pretty fun place.
I'm in Prince Edward Island in Canada, and we were meant to be. Me and the family were going to Disney World. We were going to Florida, but COVID completely messed us.
Little wrench, little hiccup in those plans,
a little bit. Yeah. So we have the game. It comes out. Obviously, you already said that you weren't really in the convention scene, and I don't, there was no Twitter. I don't even think there was a Facebook. There was nothing. So were you still getting the connection after the game came out? Did you see the fan feedback? No.
I'll tell you what, honestly, I heard the first feedback, unfortunately, that I got was pretty negative.
Oh.
I still liked what I had done, and I still really liked, but people, at that point in time, I don't think the value of dubbing was truly understood at that point. I think a lot more people preferred or were like, why don't you just do subtitles? Now, of course, we understand that for a lot of folks, subtitles are not a viable option. Right. Having these dubs for a variety of reasons is so much more inclusive, and it reaches so many more people when you don't exclude the folks who aren't able to read those subtitles for whatever reason. From
an educational disability to even from an emotional sense. You have if someone's like, don't get me wrong, I'll watch anime. Sometimes I watch it in English dubbed, sometimes I watch it in Japanese, but it is difficult to take the emotion from Japanese if I'm reading the words,
Exactly.
It's not the same.
Exactly.
Well, that's whoever gave you that negative feedback, hopefully it wasn't someone you care about because they're an idiot. Because they were very wrong.
And I think that's why I was then always a little bit afraid to always seek out more of that feedback, because I didn't want it to color the experience that I had, which was very positive. Like, I just was feeling so great about what we had accomplished, and I was feeling so attached to her that I didn't want it to be colored by anything other than the experience that I had. And it wasn't until then I started over the years, little, here or there, I would hear, oh my gosh, you did that game. I loved that game. And I was like, great, that's good. And I remember being on an airplane once and watching the young man next to me. And I say young man because I am not a young woman.
Oh, don't. Shush.
Was sitting next to me playing it on a Switch. And I was like, oh. I voiced that character, and he looked at me like I was so full of beans. It was so funny. He was like, "Yeah, right, lady."
Did you convince him in the end?
I was so tempted to, as he was playing, just be like, "Good job," but I didn't. But I didn't.
So the game comes along. As you said, you got negative feedback. It was probably a bit soul crushing. Then along comes the opportunity for 10-2. So do you just get a call out of the blue saying, hey, guess what? They want to do another one? Because until that point, that was not heard of. That never happened.
Nope. It was the very first time they needed a part 2. The feedback from you guys made that happen. So, oh my goodness. Yeah. The feedback from you all and just the fan response. And I get this call from Jack. Hey, Hedy. He's like, he has like this old burnout voice. It's so good. And he called and just said, hey, this is the deal. We're doing a 2. And then came Kingdom Hearts, and then came Kingdom Hearts 2, and then came, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, you did. I think you did some lines in Dissidia. You did some lines for World of Final Fantasy. Yeah, everything.
I have done every iteration of Yuna in English that there is.
Good for you.
There's been no other actress.
Whoever gave you that bad feedback is kicking themselves now. I hope they're watching. Screw you.
Pipe and smoke it.
So, then we reach the age of Twitter, Facebook, the remaster, and then the feedback starts coming back. The conventions appear. What's it like? Because I mean, the fact that the game it was a classic, and then it gets remastered not that long ago, in fact.
No, and it was the remaster that I was talking. No, Dissidia. It was Dissidia that James and I were talking when he told me about the conventions.
Right.
That's literally when I knew. That's when I found out. And he told me, and at that time I also didn't have a Twitter account. So he was like, what are you even doing? Where do you live? I live in Burbank, with my garden and my dog, and my husband. But when he told me about that and told me, he was like, I'm telling you what, just go on there. I'll kind of introduce you and let's just see what happens. Right. And it was like, boom. And immediately I started hearing, like I said, these wonderful stories. I got to see Alex, the cosplay that people send.
I know. We host KubaCon is literally just it. Imagine what you've been to. A KubaCon is just Final Fantasy. So it's just like Yuna's everywhere. It's incredible.
I love it so much because seeing this and seeing people's take on it and the little bits of this or that they add and the themness that they put into it. You know what I mean?
Well, I saw you just respond to someone's tweet just 10 minutes ago. Someone had cosplayed it.
I did. Yeah. Her earrings look so good. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, they did such a good job. I just feel like that to me is like this whole new, because I missed her over the years, you know what I mean? And then coming back to it in Dissidia and coming back to it again in the remaster, and then the whole new chapter with these conventions and on Twitter. It's just been so exciting and fun and wonderful to be, allowed into everybody else's shared experience.
Now, a little bit of a fun fact. I don't know if you recall this. It was September of last year. You were meant to be appearing, I think it was in Ireland, Dublin. So we were in London.
So excited.
So we were in London hosting Pomix, the largest KubaCon we've ever hosted. We had 15 voice actors. It was huge. And I remember I dropped you a tweet because I saw that they cancelled the convention. And I was like, look, if you're stuck and you've got nothing to do, I'll fly you over and then you can come do the KubaCon. But they'd never even booked you a flight, so we didn't.
Once it wasn't happening, they were just like, we're canceling. Yeah, because I wasn't doing the. And then Yeah.
That was very last minute too, huh? It was
extremely
like
last
days before. Yeah. Well, 100% the doors are wide open to come to a KoopaCon, and you would love it.
Thank you.
Like truly, you would. I think you would really love it.
I really think that would be a blast,
Yeah.
Alex. I would have such a good time. I know I would.
So look, let's talk about the character. When you went in, did they provide you with like a full, story of exactly what was where Yuna would begin and where she would end?
Yeah. Jack and I, and that's the way he really likes to work.
Right.
So I had a lot of mock-ups of her, and I had all the visuals, and I watched some of what the Japanese actress. Oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on her name right now.
Don't ask me, I'm terrible with names.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Struggle with my kids' names on a good day.
I apologize so much. She's amazing. But yeah, and I got to hear a lot of what she did, and then we just sat down over lunch and we just talked about her. And he just told me sort of her whole story, and he told me what the plot line was like, and the relationships between the other characters, and we really deep dove into that in particular, because to me that was really her arc, friendship, and learning about how to have friends, first of all, because her whole life had been so ruled by her job, basically, right? Like her whole world was about being a summoner. There was nothing else for her. So finding friends and understanding friendship and that kind of stuff became a really important arc for me to explore. So as a result, I had to really, really understand the people that she was choosing to be friends with and why. So that became very important as well.
Right. Now, I was listening to a Final Fantasy podcast last night. It wasn't even on my questions, but it was a really good point. It's kind of an awkward point, but I'm going to make it. The guy was saying how, for him, 10 came at a point in his life where he was around the same age as I would have been at the time, around 12, where you're kind of reaching, for a guy, sexual maturity. And this game it's basically like a really amazing love story between two people who slowly come closer together and then share a very artistic, beautiful scene. I won't go into spoilers because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played it, but the art of the game, the story arc, just everything about it. I mean, how does that make you feel that there's probably like thousands of kids out there that based what they believe in romance based on your voice acting?
Come on, though. If you're going to base your romantic ideals on anything, that's not a bad one to choose.
No, it's not.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of equity there. There's an awful lot of companionship and support and care.
There's a lot of sacrifice in the game too.
There's a lot of that. And there's a lot of really, really allowing yourself to be vulnerable, not just for Yuna, but for every character has their moment of vulnerability. You know what I mean? So I think that, and I mean, there can't be a more beautiful moment. Come on, that scene is so. Did
they show you the scene? Did you know?
Yeah.
So you saw
scenes like that. We call them the movie scenes.
Yeah.
We would watch those in their entirety.
That is probably one of the. I think it's the finest cutscene in the entire series. It's absolutely exquisite.
No, and with the music and everything, with chef's kiss.
Yeah.
It was seriously we would sit and watch the whole thing. And I have to tell you, there were definitely a few that I was like.
Have you ever heard the song from that live? Stecky Dene, have you heard that? Oh, God. Okay, that's something. Next time you come to a KoopaCon, we'll buy you tickets to go to Distant Worlds. Because we've done that with other voice actors. We've taken them to a KoopaCon, and Distant Worlds is usually somewhere close by. And we'll take them, and they get to hear the music from the game, and their tears are just flowing. And I'm sure that would be quite the moment for you. And a lot of the time, they have the original singer of it perform it live, right? So I'm amazed you haven't been to one, because I'm sure they've done them in LA.
Honey, I've only been doing this for 2 years. Give me some slack.
You just lived under a rock since 2000, then suddenly oh my God.
I prefer books with pages. I have a calendar that is spiral bound.
Right.
Like, I'm not with it, Alex.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Computers without cameras.
Yeah. It has a camera.
God damn the Dell. It's not a good advert for Dell. It's not a good ad.
Not a very good advertisement.
No. Well, we got there. So there's a huge difference between Yuna 10 and Yuna 10.2. Huge difference. So when you got the call for 10.2, did you think, oh, where are they going to go with this?
I did.
Were you quite surprised with how they went with it?
Yeah, I was. It was definitely. And Jack is cracking up. He can't wait to show me the art. Right? He's like, he's got the binder, and he's like, get a load of this. Yeah. And he opens it up, and there she is in, pardon me, but in her booty shorts, and we howled. I was like, Yuna. Like, there was a piece of me that felt like her older sister that was like, oh, you cover those up. Yeah. But then I was just like, no, she should definitely not. She looks fantastic.
It was completely
so
different.
The band, the whole girl band, you know what I mean, with Riku and Pain, it was just YRP. That whole thing was just so much fun.
YRP in position. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And it was so funny. Gwendolyn and I were at the Hawaii Con together.
I've spoken to Gwendolyn once, I think.
Oh,
yeah, just briefly. Yeah, she's Pain, right?
Yeah. And then I know Tara, because she actually lives very close to me. We take our dogs to the same groomers.
Well, give her a nudge and tell her she can come to a KoopaCon too.
I certainly will. Yeah. I certainly will. And it's funny you say that. I was like, how would the internet explode if me and you and James were all, and she was just like, oh, forget it. Oh, forget it. Yeah.
We've spoken to James quite a few times. We've just never been able to make a schedule work. We had a Vancouver event and he could make it, but it was like a week before and we just couldn't work it out. But I think, 10 is such an iconic game, not just in the series, but because, as you said, everything was perfect. Everything was done right. The chemistry was so good. And it had never been done before. Just never been done.
Matching those voice flaps. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Yeah. I hear that a lot from voice actors.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, I feel like people would be rather pissy if we didn't bring up the, one of the most memeable, comical scenes from the game, which is obviously the ha ha ha. Did you hear the Japanese version before you?
I did.
Which is, I've heard it. It's totally different.
We had to play it many times because we couldn't stop laughing. And then we literally got my stuff. The one that you hear is my first take. Because I had to do it. We could not do it again where I didn't actually dissolve into tears, or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was, and I thought it was a scratch. I thought that was a scratch take. I was like, oh, we'll just knock this out and get it out of the way and see. I'll get it out of my system. And then and you can kind of, if you listen, you can hear me break just the tiniest. You can hear the smile in there. And yeah, for sure. That was that one. There's a couple of nanoseconds in there that was 100% Hedy, not Yuna.
And I think in a game like 10, it's also really important that the voice acting is perfect, because back then, even though games had progressed, you still weren't really seeing proper facial expressions. Like now, it's like it looks as real as me touching someone. But you really had to portray, because there's only so much that can be done right at that time from a digital perspective. So yeah, bravo! I thought the performance was amazing.
That's where I also give credit to our engineers who were able to capture so many of those amazing moments. You know what I mean? From all of us, we had such a great team, and it's so funny that I'm seeing you because I just went in to do some work last week, and I saw the engineer from that, Ernie, and I was like, Ernie, oh my gosh. And so, yeah, seeing anybody who had anything to do with that experience, I still feel so, I look at them and I'm like, yeah, transported 20 years ago.
I'm curious, when you go to cons, is it a lot of people asking you for the ha ha ha?
Yes. Yeah. And, yes. And in fact, we had to start saying you guys, I can't. And then
probably because it hurts your voice after a while, I imagine, because it's quite or it just also got a bit weird.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't want to say that because I don't want people to think that
No,
I
but
don't
like,
like
you know, the
it.
thing is that like a lot of people feel that love, but if you've got to do it 105 times in a day, you're probably going to get a little pissed off, you know?
Negative ghostwriter. Yeah.
I can totally understand that. Look, we got a ton of questions from the people watching, so we're just going to fly through these. Karina, if you are watching, we are obviously running a tad late, so I will get to you shortly.
Sorry, Karina, thank you.
So we have a question from Mercy. What was the most emotional part of the game that made you cry and made you happy?
Well, personally, that made me the most emotional was and this is no BS, the last take, like just the last line when we did the last line of the last. Because I was like, I'm leaving. I have to leave. I'm not going to be here with them.
Did you record the majority of the game in order? Or is it a bit,
Yep. Majority of it. And then we did like battle sounds at the very end.
Yeah.
So it was like probably like the last line was probably like a, ah!
I always laugh actually because when you probably did voices for Dissidia, people will rip out those noises. And then you can just get the MP3 file of someone going, yeah. And it's always funny to hear by itself.
Just Yuna going, over and over. Yeah.
That could be totally misinterpreted.
Good point, Alex.
So we have, okay.
But other than that, sorry, I also, when she sees Titus and it is Titus, sorry guys, when she sees Titus at the very end, at the end, and he runs, that moment
really good
for me.
Cinematics. Well, Aaron just asked, what's your favorite Yuna and Titus moment? So do I assume it's that?
Well, of course it's the laughter. I'm just kidding.
Obviously, it's the fan favorite.
I do like that moment, but I also love the first moment they meet when there's that little bit of ding, ding, ding. You know what I mean?
I don't know if you're familiar with that. Have you played the game through yourself?
Not all.
You really should.
And a lot of times I know, and a lot of times I don't, just because I can't listen to myself.
Really, you really should pick up a Switch and pop it in and go for it.
And I'll play with Japanese voice.
No. There's a scene when actually when Titus tries to walk towards Yuna right at the beginning, and it always makes me laugh because I see jokes made of it, and there's this old woman who's always like, stay away from the summoner, and it always makes me laugh when I see that, because it's like, probably that for me is like the best. I want to find out who voice acted that. That was perfect.
It was probably Jack's sister.
Yeah, well,
honestly,
they're a legend.
I'll tell her.
So Anna says, what was the hardest part of either game to voice act, either emotionally or technically?
Technically, it was, to stay in that register, in that high register for so long, definitely took some consistency and some management. So that wasn't easy. But a lot of times it was when the balance of that softness and the strength, like managing that very fine line was pretty difficult. So some of those battles, I would say, it was very difficult to maintain that very high and light timbre and still get that battle strength in there. That was hard.
Chloe asks, what were your thoughts? Oh, we've already covered the laugh scene. What was it like recording? We've covered it. As a follow-up, James asks, can you do the laugh, Alex? No, I cannot do the laugh. I'll leave that to James Arnold Taylor. It's not for me, sorry. In fact, actually, I'll tell you this. I know you're not very familiar with the KubaCon stuff, but when people come to KubaCon, they get given a book, and it's a quest log, and they complete quests. Hold on, give me a second. If my cable's long enough. Okay, so this one is the Book of Mog. This was Birmingham in the UK. So they get a quest log and they spend the day completing quests.
I love it.
Then they get they get gil, and then they use that fake currency gil to get free merchandise. So one of the quests we had was to recreate the ha ha ha. So the whole day you'd be walking around and all you'd hear is ha ha ha, like the whole day. It was brilliant. I forget which event that was at. It was a couple, but it was a really great moment. So yeah,
I have got to get.
You absolutely, yeah. We've done them. We've done a couple in the States. We do them in Canada. We do them in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to Australia. We've got them all over. Yeah. Anyway, I got sidetracked. Sorry. So Rebecca says, Rebecca says, can you whistle in real life? And did you provide the whistle in the game or was that generated by someone else?
Oh, I'm actually a really good whistler.
Did they use your whistle?
Yeah. I'm a very good whistler.
Bravo. And you said it was your whistle in the game?
I'm not exactly.
I don't know. That one would have been really tough to record a whistle without it sounding like
No, it probably was not actually my whistle.
Because I don't think the whistle was incredibly good in the game.
And I don't think...
It was a 2-finger whistle too, huh?
That would have been... Yeah, to mic that was really hard. I can't whistle that way.
No, I can't.
I can't do that.
No.
And this, I can't.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's that, isn't it? That's what it is.
She just goes...
Yeah, I can't do that.
I can't do that.
No. Game's ruined.
Did I disappoint her?
Yeah, game's ruined. Nikki says, in Final Fantasy X-2, the Gull Wings have the most amazing outfit changes thanks to the dress sphere. If you could add another costume to the Gull Wings, what would you choose?
Ooh. You know what? You know that movie Legend with Mia Sara and Tim Curry?
Right.
I want the dress that Mia Sara puts on at the end with that big black, I'd love to see Yuna in that, all dark.
That's different for sure.
Something. Yeah.
Did you, when you were recording lines for World of Final Fantasy, did you see the version that they made for her? It was like a Ghibli version. It was like a cartoony anime
with the big yes. Yeah. And we looked at that because I did some voicing for that.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I got to see the art for that before it came out.
That's very different. It's very cute.
I was like, I want that so badly.
So
I wanted one.
Would that have been the last time you recorded, or was it Dissidia when you were doing?
Dissidia.
Yeah, that would have been the last time. Yep. Now there is some material for 10.3. There is there's an audio piece as well. If they ever came to you and said, "Look, we want to do 10.3, we want to do it," okay.
Yes.
That was easy. Look, I just want to end by saying that the chat has been filled with comments of people just saying how much they love Yuna. They love what you did. And honestly, the word, well, you can watch this back on Facebook afterwards.
Perfect.
The amount of people who said how much the character Yuna inspired them is endless. The list really goes on and on. And I can say that it was for me, again, I was about 12 when I played it. So it's quite a key. It's quite important in someone's development to see really what is good and what is bad, what a real life struggle is. What I liked about 10 is it wasn't just, oh yay, there's bad guys, we've defeated them, everyone's happy. The ending is bittersweet. And I think that's what makes it really, really unique.
I think that there's an air of realism to that things can't always be so perfectly clear cut and clean. And you said it, Alex, the idea of sacrifice in this game coming up again and again and again and again. And especially in her life, that there isn't ever a way for her to truly have everything she's always wanted, and the tragedy that comes with that. And yet she does what she needs to do. She knows it the whole time, and she still does what's needed and asked of her. That's pretty powerful. Mm-hmm. It's pretty powerful.
Well, I just want to say again, thank you for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Alex. And I apologize so much for all the problems.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Not an issue. We got there. I was calling and it wasn't working. I was like, oh God, no. I was really looking forward to this one, but I'm glad that we were able to make it work. And please, absolutely, once this is, once this disastrous COVID situation is over, or at least manageable, please do come visit us. Yeah. We'd love to have you. I'm sure everyone would agree that it would be great. And I the list of I'll show you this, for example. we made a calendar not that long ago. It has 15 months in it, a bit unusual. And each month has artwork from each game. So the 10th month obviously has art from 10. And this was made for us. So like, see?
And here's what's amazing. My birthday is in the 10th
Well,
month.
look at that.
It's October.
So we have lots of really cool Yuna
I
artwork
love
that
that.
I'd like
Who
to show you.
did that artwork?
This artwork was done by Crimson Sun.
Well, Crimson, if you're watching, that is beautiful.
Crim lives
Nicely
in Australia. Crim has done quite a lot of work with us.
Nice job.
We loved it. And there's lots of very nice Yuna artwork that I'll show you when I see you. And the cosplay, endless. Endless. Like, actually, in fact, we had one. There was a quest where we had people dressed as Yuna doing ascending. And it's really good. Like, you'll have to come see. You absolutely have to come see. There's something really unique about being in a building with 1,000 fans, just all about the same franchise, right?
I had a fan. They had this thing where you could get your pictures taken with different fans. And so I was in the room, and I walked up to the person who was dressed as Yuna for the next session. And I was like, hi. I was like, oh, you're here dressed as Yuna, huh? And she, yeah. I mean, I'm really excited. And I was like, have you met the actor who plays her yet? And she was like, no, I haven't. I was like, oh, well, she's kind of a letdown.
You didn't. It would have been awful if she turned around and said, yeah, I've heard that. Like, you would have been like, shit. I heard she got really bad feedback for a game when it came out. Oh, well. Could be worse.
I love it.
But no, I do hope our paths cross again. Truly, I do. So we'll keep in touch.
I've had such a good time.
Good.
On such a really good day.
Yes, absolutely. Well, wishing you all the best from all senses.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
thank you.
Hang fire, stay there with me for just one second. Folks, I'm going to say goodbye to Hedy in just a second, and I'll be back with Karina shortly.